All right, we're back for another episode of the Free Your Voice, Free Your Life podcast. I am your host, I guess. My name is Davin Youngs. I'm super excited to be with you here for this episode. I have lots of cool stuff to share with you. And yeah, I love this space. I always feel really excited to have the idea and the kernel to sit down and record these episodes and to know that it will hit your ears and that so many of you give me so much lovely feedback in this space, in this place. And it's a way of staying connected. And I'm just really grateful for that. I was thinking the other day as I was out for a walk, listening to someone's podcast that I've listened to for many years, that there's something really just so lovely about having that voice in my ear. There's a comforting factor and the consistency of, I don't know, that presence that really is impactful in my life. And so I hope in some way I might be that for you through this space. And it is the eve of the election here in the US. And so I'm just naming that. I feel like there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of, I don't know. It's just a lot. And so I'm just naming that I'm entering into this space and this conversation with that energy on my mind, but also, again, sort of looking to tap into the consistent flow of connection that we find here and that we find through our own art and our own creativity and our own self expression. And that there are going to be many, many variables in our contemporary world, whether it be politics, the weather. Things seem to be getting wilder in a way, but all the more reason for us to come together around these topics of personal growth and expansion and healing and just being that steady flow, that steady stream of water that is moving toward our collective goodness and our collective growth. So, I wanted to tell you, speaking of collective growth, that I am coming off I guess earlier this week, performing at the Kennedy Center, which I've been teasing for a while, and it finally happened. It happened on Monday, October 28th. I brought the Reset, my signature immersive sound healing experience, which you can learn more about at theresetsoundexperience.com. You also can see images from the event at my Instagram. That's at Davin Youngs. Or on Facebook, you can find me, Davin Youngs too. But yeah, I did it. I did it. I kind of can't believe it. It really felt, um, I don't know, it felt like I was occupying this space of feeling very, very present and also like, holy shit, like what is going on? This is crazy. Surreal is certainly the word, but also very real, very in my body, very connected. This possibility emerged in May of 2024 and got locked in. And, here all these months later, it finally happened. I was able to bring this immersive sound healing experience to the concert hall at the Kennedy Center, which is the biggest venue in the space. And we sold a really great amount of tickets. We had people on the stage, we had people in the audience. And I just felt super aligned with what I did. I was telling my dad just yesterday that, of all the gigs, oddly, this one I didn't feel so nervous about because I just felt ready. I felt really good as I walked into the space. I mean, don't get me wrong. There was some fear. But as soon as I got going and as soon as I got on stage and as soon as I was met with the smiles from the audience, I just knew that we were there for this collective experience of goodness and that my only job was to be the conduit for that, to be the space holder, to use sound and singing and voice as the container. And so I did, and I felt like I did a really good job and I got lots of positive feedback. And I've never done anything at that scale before. I mean, this was definitely next level. Um, but I felt great about it and I got good feedback from the venue themselves and that they're interested in doing this again. And um, yeah, I feel blessed. I feel great. I feel really good. There's some other stuff that's sort of transpiring in tandem with this and maybe in connection to this that I'll hopefully share with you soon. But I don't know. Last year, I couldn't have known that in October of this year, that I would have that opportunity to perform on that scale and that level. And um, it felt really, really satisfying and really, really good. And I couldn't help but stand on that stage and also envision the audience being completely full in the future. And just standing in gratitude for what was in front of me and what I had access to, and also simultaneously carrying a dream for it to continue to grow and expand. And it was really powerful. It was a really powerful experience. I actually found myself in tears at one point during the creation of the experience, and they were just tears of gratitude. So, yeah, what a trippy, wild time of my life. And thank you so much for those of you who have been joining me and supporting along this way. And we're still going this month, November 15th. I'll be at the Civic Opera House, the Lyric Opera of Chicago. Unfortunately, those tickets are sold out already. Um, but there are some other places that I'll be coming in January. I'm going to be in Omaha, Nebraska at the Omaha Steelhouse. And yeah, I'm going to tell you about some other gigs that are popping up soon as they get more firm and locked in. But I'm really, really grateful for this trajectory and the way that things are going. So, today I wanted to share with you on a theme that has become really relevant in my own life and something I've become increasingly aware of in my own creative journey. But also, it's something that I witness often hold back others in their ability to take the next steps to make what it is that they're trying to have happen, what it is that they're trying to create, how it is that they're trying to be heard, be expressed, be seen. The simple theme here is that there is no right way. There is no right way. Recently, in a voice coaching session, I have a relatively new client that I had given an exercise to do, and she was performing the task. But I could see on her face what I like to call a question mark. There was some confusion, some uncertainty. And the exercise that I'd given, honestly, in my mind, it was just intended to be a warm up. We were just sort of getting the ball rolling. And I'd given her that and I just wanted to get her singing, get the voice moving, and see what was going to show up. But as I witnessed this question mark on her face, I stopped and I asked her, I was like, what's going through your mind right now? And she said to me, well, I'm just trying to get it right. And I thought to myself, man, if I had $1 for every time I had heard that, or every time I had thought that, or every time I had felt that. And the great irony for me in the moment was there was no right. I hadn't given her the exercise with some sort of intended outcome. We were just warming up the voice. Now, it doesn't mean that I didn't have hopes and dreams for where it might point us, but I wasn't listening with the sort of critical ear that was offering a binary, nope, that's wrong. But she, based on previous experiences, maybe outside of singing, had an expectation of herself that she was imposing upon the exercise. In fact, she actually was imposing it upon her expectations of me or what she thought that I wanted from her. And that was the really interesting part to me because this is what so many of us do so often in so many different cases or scenarios. But through my own journey and through what I've witnessed with thousands of clients over 20 plus years, is that the more quickly you can let go of the story that there's some right way to get somewhere and or there's some right achievable outcome, the more quickly you will actually move into creating and sharing that which you desire. There's nothing that ends a creative endeavor more quickly than the expectation that there's a right or wrong way to do it. I remember early on in my own music making that particularly recording music intimidated the hell out of me. I felt like I didn't have much technical expertise and I felt like I didn't have the tools that would equip me to actually record myself um, in the music that I wanted to make. And I remember thinking, just feeling very daunted by the task. I remember thinking that maybe I would need to go to some sort of extensive recording program. And then I didn't actually care that much about learning software and the technicalities of it. But I also felt like I needed to do that if I wasn't going to, pay astronomical fees to have someone else do it and yada, yada, yada. That feeling, particularly around recording myself, it kept me stagnant for a long time. I would sit down and start to do it, and then I would quickly assume that I didn't know how to do it. And I don't know what flipped in me, but at some point in time, I just gave myself permission to start recording and just screwing around to see if I could achieve the effects that I was trying to get as an outcome. I had a vision, I had an idea in my mind of what might sound cool. I just didn't know. I thought that there was like a right way to make it happen. But when I gave myself permission to just start recording and playing around and adding effects and seeing what different tracks sounded like and, just trying to learn the software, play around with it, I landed on my ability to do some pretty cool stuff. Now, fast forward to a little bit later, spending some time with artists in the recording studio and actually going to the recording studio myself, sitting with engineers and producers, and quickly realizing that there's not one way to achieve anything. There's not one right software, there's not one right process, there's not one right microphone, there's not one right instrument, there's not none of it. There were a lot of different ways to achieve similar things. And some of the paths were more efficient than others. Some of them were a little less messy, but it didn't actually even matter how anyone ended up where they ended up. It just was that you ended up there eventually, that you ended up having created something that you wanted to share. And I saw this, and it was a really big light bulb moment for me because I recognized that I hadn't been giving myself permission to do the thing that I wanted to do because I just assumed that if people listened to me doing it the way that I was doing it, they would have a lot of judgment, or they would think to themselves, like, Davin does not know how to record. This is bad. And sure, maybe those people exist, but 9 times out of 10, it wouldn't matter. It's just that you achieve the result that you want to achieve to share. I'll give you another example of this. When I started recording music, and to this day, a lot of the music that I make and that you can find online of mine, it is just my voice. Most of the sounds that you hear are my voice, and I've added different effects and all different types of influence on the sound to create textures and what have you. And early on in my making of music and trying to share it with people, I would really tout this as a factor in how it was that they needed to listen. That when listening to what it is that I was sharing with you, please keep in mind that it's all my voice. And then I realized after a lot of time doing that, nobody cared. Sure, it was impressive that I could do this. It's good information. But what really people cared about was just the experience that they were having with the music. Was it a pleasant experience? Did they enjoy it? Did they find it exciting? Did they find it compelling? Did it light up their ears? That was what mattered. It didn't even matter at all that I had done it with my voice. It just mattered that it connected with them and moved them. And this was further affirmation to me that it doesn't matter how you get there. It just matters how you go. This is such a challenging aspect of being a creative person or just trying to create changes and shifts in your life. I've shared many times before that I've observed that there are some like lowest common denominator fears that people typically bump up against when they are trying to do something different or something new in their lives, especially when they feel like they want to lean into something that feels like a creative expression of themselves. And typically, the first thing that they question is the financial aspect of it, the money. A, I don't have enough money to create this. B, it won't make any money. Or C, it's not worth the money. Money, resources. The other one is time. really struggling with the aspect of like, how much time is this going to take? I don't have enough time. There's not enough time. Time keeps passing. And in that same vein is I'm too old. Too much time has passed. No one's going to take me seriously. I don't look right at this stage. Can you relate to these things? I mean, I sure do. These are definitely stories that have been significant in my process, my journey in the past. But one of the other really common insecurities, fears, inhibitions that comes up for folks is this question around legitimacy. Am I acceptable to create in certain communities? Will so and so from this academic institution or so and so from this music review website, would they listen to this and find it to be acceptable, legitimate? And oftentimes we're having that conversation with ourselves about people that we don't even know or people that don't even claim to know the things that we're giving them the impression or the power to know. And so turns into this story that grows in our mind. If I record this, if it sounds bad and it just happens to get out there, the legitimacy of this agency or this institution or this group or this person will reject me. I won't be enough. I won't have done it right. Therefore, I'm not acceptable. And this is simply a false narrative and a false claim. Now, certainly, various institutions, like let's say if you wanted to work at a university, you would likely have to have certain degrees to do so. Yeah, absolutely. If you want to be a lawyer, you got to pass the bar exam. There are expectations, qualifications for specific outcomes. But in creativity, in music, in singing, in art, it doesn't matter how you get there. Now, again, you might want to learn, you likely should learn more efficient paths to getting where you want to go from folks who have been there before. But please don't let that stop you from starting. You have to be willing to start from a place of curiosity, of exploration, of trying. And in doing that, you have to bump up against the voice of, this isn't even worthwhile. This isn't going to be any good. No one will like this. This is not going to make me any money. Why am I wasting my time, my energy on this? I could just be off, you know, doing work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to bump up against those conversations. But in that, I hope you might hear my voice in your head saying, there's no right way. There's no right way. There's no right way. It's how you get there. It's how you get there. And it's the getting there that's the really fun part. I have to tell you in real transparency that even doing something like the Kennedy Center, imposter syndrome certainly pops up for me. Um, Bringing the reset to the venues that I brought it to, part of the reason I know that I'm getting the opportunity to do that is because it's a novel offering. What I'm doing is unique. It hasn't happened in these spaces, in these places like that before. And I do feel confident that the experience itself is outstanding. I feel really equipped to offer what I offer and create what I create. And I've gotten a lot of good feedback. I hear from a lot of people that they find it meaningful and moving. But when my lowest common denominator thinking or my shadow self thinking becomes louder in my mind, I catch myself going, I don't think that I belong here. Or the venue is not going to be satisfied with the amount of profit that comes from this, or the lack of profit that comes from this. Or they tried this once because it was a novelty, but it's probably not going to be have a significant impact enough to be invited back. It's those stories, those narratives around acceptance, legitimacy, worth, value. And it's so easy to fall into that trap. I mean, it happens all the time. I remember as a voice coach early on, I longed for, and this makes me giggle now, but accrediting institutions to see value and worth in what I was doing. And because I don't have a master's degree in singing and voice. I do have a master's degree. It's an interdisciplinary studies. I call it my choose your own adventure degree. But I would not be hireable at most academic institutions because I don't have a master's degree in voice. But as a professional, I had a lot of success working with professional singers as well as amateur singers. And I felt a tremendous amount of confidence in my skill and my ability based on the learning that I had done from mentors and teachers and real life experience, being out in the scene doing what it was that I was doing. And so early on in my career, even though I had those experiences of financial success, of reputation in the community, of feeling expert knowledge in specific areas around the voice, I still at times longed for recognition from institutions. And I know now, being much further down the road, that while that is very useful for some folks, it doesn't satisfy what I thought it would satisfy. It felt like it was the permission slip that I needed someone to give me. But what I recognize now is that only you can give yourself that permission slip. That even if an institution does back you and support you, it doesn't satisfy the urges of your heart to be open to a curious, unexpected, new, playful, graceful process. In fact, legitimacy, as deemed by institutions, often kills growth because it puts a stamp on something. It says, yep, this is good, this is it. And there's something about the tenacity of being outside of those paths of affirmation. The part of you that goes, I don't think this is even good, but I just feel compelled to keep doing it. The part of you that goes, I don't know how to do this right now, but I'm going to keep trying to figure it out. The part of you that feels like you just have something else you need to express, and the paths that you've taken in the past, they don't seem to guide you directly where it is that you want to go, so you have to weave and twist and turn and wiggle to try to figure out where it is. This is where all new ideas come from. New ideas rarely come from within governing bodies of legitimacy. New ideas rarely come from unlimited resources. Ooh, doesn't that burn to know that? New ideas rarely come from really spacious time frames. They often come from dark nights of the soul, feeling stuck, feeling overwhelmed, but feeling courageous and tenacious about what it is that you want to share, and feeling almost belligerent about the fact that maybe no one will like this. Maybe no one will find it to be good. Maybe no one will deem it worthy, but I have to do it. I have to go this way. I have to move in this direction. And when the voices creep up, that's when we get the opportunity to exercise compassion and curiosity toward ourselves. That's when we get the opportunity to go, you know what, buddy, you are doing the best you can, and look what you've done. Look what you've created. Look where you've ended up. This is where we get to cultivate practices that move us in the direction of experimentation and exploration. This is when the voice teacher gives the exercise and the student goes, I don't know what they want here, but I'm just going to give it a try and see what happens. More often than not, that attitude, that conditioning, that practice will lead to delightful surprise. It will lead to quicker growth. It will lead toward expansion. It will lead toward healing the wounds of your past when you got those messages that said you weren't good enough. I can't tell you how many people I meet that had an experience in maybe even like junior high, auditioning for the school musical and not getting the part, and how they carry that with them, often into middle age or even late in life, feeling as though they were rejected once. And so it hurt too bad. It was never worth going back. And I'm really sympathetic to that experience. So many of us have these experiences, especially in early life, that take up residency in our body and we really struggle to move beyond them. But I have to tell you, it's an old story and it's old programming and it's not worth clinging to. Where you find yourself now is of more maturity and more tools and more wisdom. And you have the capacity to handle stepping into the unknown. You might not feel like your capacity for that is great, but it's certainly something that you can practice. And you practice it by pursuing the things that light you up. You practice it by failing at the things that excite you. Because when you fail, that's when you grow. When you don't know what it is that you're doing, that's when you look for the answers. You look for the solutions. Now, another aspect to this too is that when we feel like we don't know the way, we have the opportunity to connect with others who might have some insight. The mistake that so many of us make is that we think that someone else will have the answer, and they never do. I've certainly done a lot of coaching myself, uh, hoping that in the session I would get the answer that I was looking for, and walked away feeling maybe more confused. And I'm certain that a lot of my clients have felt that same way with me. But if I go into this assuming that the person that I'm communicating with does not have the answer, but has the spirit, the energy, the experience of having moved towards something similar to what I want to do, what I want to create, what I want to move into, who I want to be. If I can be in relationship with them, there's an energy of connection and interconnection that can really move the needle on my ability to create. Just the other day, I connected with someone who's further down the road on a path that I'd like to be on. And in this conversation, I was struck by the fact that I didn't get much information about how they got there because we all take different paths. We all do really specific paths that are ours, that are specific to our journey and our story, and they're all so different. But I walked away from that conversation just feeling encouraged because this person was like, "Yeah, do you keep going?" And I heard in this person's voice the sound of experience of someone who had pursued themselves and what it is that they wanted to create and express and put out in the world. And they'd gotten further with it. They'd gotten to a place that I want to move toward. And they're doing something different, but it's similar. And in that, we can really support each other and stay in connection with each other, holding each other up, especially in those dark times. So if you have the capacity to connect with someone who's doing what it is that you want to do or something similar to what it is that you want to do, connect with them, but don't expect them to legitimize your path. Only you can do that for you. Only you can be the person that gives you the permission slip to experiment, to try, to grow, to flop, to fail, and to succeed. And ultimately, only you can give yourself the affirmations that you need to grow into the person that you want to become. You, my friend, are much closer to that than you believe. And if you can learn to quiet the voice of there's not enough money, there's not enough time, there's not enough resources, I will not be acceptable. If you can quiet the voice of unworthiness and give yourself the permission to change, the permission to grow, I promise you will not only start to create that which you want to create, but you'll also be happier. When you're not looking to me for affirmation that you've done it right, but you invite me on your journey of exploration, together we will have more fun and we will move more quickly toward your goal. Now, the last thing I want to say about this is be careful because when you allow yourself to let go of there needing to be a right way to get there and you embrace the way that you're going and you get there, you're going to have to come up with the next dream. you're going to have to come up with the next goal. You're going to have to dig deeper into your deepest desires, the alignment with your inner being and the truth of who it is that you are. And you're going to have to do it all over again. And that's the fun of it. That's the joy. The joy is the journey. So stop looking outside of yourself. Stop looking to YouTube. Stop looking to authorities. I use that in quotes. Stop looking to governing agencies for some sort of affirmation that there's a right way to do it. Because you will continue to be sorely disappointed and you'll continue to put off pursuing this next thing that you want to do. And instead, just take the first step, the first easiest next step. Do the warm up, see what shows up. And from there, continue in that following, in that flow. Continue to move toward your own integrity, your own playfulness, your own joy. Do what feels good. All right, my friends. Until next time. Peace.